So March 7th had a camera before Mr. Rekka came into the room. Mr. Rekka being a memo keeper of the Garden of Recollection that follow Fuli Of Remembrance. And then Mr. Rekka having a small cameo with a camera here. Do you know what that means? It means that March 7th is actually a Stoneheart. She's the 11th Stoneheart that infiltrated the Nameless in order to abduct the main MC with the Stellaron in their body and sabotage the efforts to save the universe by the Stellaron Hunters in order for the IPC to gain total control and world domination. Yeah, either that or she's connected with the Remembrance. But how exactly is she connected to Fuli? That is what we're here to discuss. Now, I did touch on this topic in another video, but when it comes to March 7th and going over her backstory and lore, well, that's just it. There isn't any backstory and lore. She's a complete anomaly, found in a giant chunk of ice by the Nameless, with no memory of her past life whatsoever. Her name is March 7th because they found her on March 7th. And besides that, the only memories that she has are the ones that she's made with us along the way. But who exactly is she? Why is she here? And why is she so significant being the mascot of the game? Because let me tell you, March 7th's backstory goes way deeper than you realize. So let's break it down. Those shards that are in-game currency. Not only does she have that on her design, but she shares the same color palette as them. Also, this design can be found on Black Swan, who is a memo keeper. Somebody that abandoned their mortal body to join the Garden of Recollection to collect memories for the Aeon Fuli. So the little camera Easter egg between March 7th and Mr. Rekka, her having the same symbol as Black Swan, could all be just small coincidences. It also showed in 2.6 when they did the graffiti. Her crystal that she made, she was found in something called the Eternal Ice. Now, March 7th's main ability is called 6-Phase Ice, and she's a preservation character. Clearly, she was in some Eternal Ice to be preserved, which only makes sense, but she had not a single memory of who she was, where she was, why she was, who she actually is. Nothing. Like a clean slate, like an empty husk of a person. March 7th even refers to this ice she was found in as condensed crystal. There is also a memo keeper on the Astral Express in one of the endgame content modes, the Forgotten Hall Memory, where all of the challenges are hidden within condensed memory crystals. And obviously these oniric shards have something to do with Remembrance, March 7th, and Black Swan. But what does oniric even mean? It relates to dreams or dreaming. So obviously going over all of that, March 7th is connected to not only the Remembrance in some way, but the condensed crystal that she was obviously kept in for some reason, with no memories. And what do the Garden of Recollection and the Memo Keepers do again? Oh yeah, collect precious memories from across the universe. They freely travel between worlds and try to find memories that can please their Aeon. Memories are proof that all things that make up the material world will eventually perish, but they can live on another way, through remembering and the remembrance. What in the universe is absolutely real and immortal? In a universe with constant reincarnation, even powerful stars die, black holes evaporate. On a cosmic scale, all of these vanish in the blink of an eye. As time passes on, the only thing that endures is memory that proves the existence of people. There was even this cryptic line by Black Swan who referred to a memo keeper who likes to use a camera to record memories, which we automatically were like, oh shit, that's March 7th. She always has her camera. But given the circumstance of her situation, it's understandable that she'd want to keep a camera to keep memories if she ever had her memory wiped again. That would be frustrating to not know who you are. That doesn't mean she's a memo keeper. And now we've seen Dr. Rekka with a camera in 2.6. She might be referring to him. But that doesn't mean there's not a connection here. On the contrary, it means there's definitely a connection here. But I don't believe March 7th to be a memo keeper. At least not in the typical sense. Because what do we know about the other factions of Honkai Star Rail that follow other Aeons? Factions that follow the hunt. Well, they hunt. The abundance. Have their immortality. The propagation in its heyday would duplicate. and propagate and procreate non-stop. The architects that followed the preservation would build walls like their Aeon, and the followers of destruction take great pleasure in all aspects of destruction and destroying things. The genius society that follow erudition, the enigmata that follow mythos, the elation that follow aha. You start to notice a pattern here. Followers of each Aeon usually follow in that Aeon's footsteps. Now, what do we know about the Garden of Recollection and the Memo Keepers? Well, for some unknown reason, they have surrendered their worldly bodies to traverse the universe in the form of memories. These bodiless forms are far more resilient than other similar entities, as it protects them from forgetful nature of remembrance and the corrosion of the enigmata. And these bodiless forms are very resilient to other entities. I guess if you're collecting memories to preserve the universe, the last thing you want to do is forget, or have those memories construed by the enigmata. And according to Welt himself, Memo Keepers of the Garden are emanators. Now I find that interesting considering we know all the factions of each Aeon follow in that Aeon's footsteps, both figuratively and quite literally most cases. If every single Memo Keeper abandons their mortal body, so is it safe to assume that the Aeon of Remembrance themselves would do the same thing long ago? An Aeon that is quite literally a humanoid condensed crystal. And if the Aeon Fuli abandoned their mortal body to ascend into Aeonhood in order to protect all of the memories of the universe in the face of its destruction, is it possible that that body was placed in some condensed crystal or eternal ice, which would make March 7th the Aeon of Remembrance, but also not the Aeon of Remembrance? Wait, what do I mean by that? We know all Aeons rise into Aeonhood due to a circumstance, usually an intense one. Propagation. Tazeroth of Propagation rose into Aeonhood out of an intense loneliness, being the last of its species or kind. Lon of the Hunt rose into Aeonhood out of an intense hatred of the abundance to hunt and eradicate it, which was necessary since the abundance was running out of control, so you needed an Aeon to keep it in check. Perhaps the Aeon of Remembrance, as it was rising into Aeonhood, needed to abandon its mortal body for all of the reasons we just discussed that Memo Keepers do. Mortal bodies are more subject to being tampered with in a lot of different capacities, so the Aeon Fuli abandoning its body in some eternal ice and having its followers do the same thing in order to preserve memories makes sense, and March 7th being that mortal body, and in turn having that body's entire memories and history completely clean slated and wiped also makes sense, making March 7th literally an empty husk, not having the slightest clue or who, what, when, or why, just a girl being preserved on ice. And even though she has no memory of her past life, her natural instinct to record memories with her camera, and has constant remembrance Easter eggs all over her design and personality, because she is the original Memo Keeper. But that also means that the current March 7th is a completely different person. It would be like taking your consciousness out of your body right now. The empty husk of a body that you would leave over would be your body, but everything that makes you you would have left that empty husk of a body. Your memories, your personality, your consciousness is what defines you. And March 7th, or whoever she used to be, that consciousness that abandoned their body long ago would be the Aeon of Remembrance, Fuli, that looks like a humanoid crystal. And the current March 7th, the person that we've been traveling around with on the Astral Express, has kind of started from scratch in this new body, is in a lot of ways the same person but different experiences, like hitting factory reset, but still keeping some of those habits. And her being a preservation character and using 6-phase ice as her ability makes complete sense. Plus, the game hasn't really discussed what Memo Keepers do with their body when they abandon it. I don't think they just throw it in a garbage disposal, and even if the body we found in ice that is March 7th isn't the Aeon of Fuli, I would assume the Aeon of Remembrance still abandoned their body when they rose to Aeonhood. So that begs the question, if this Aeon did abandon their body, and we were the ones to find that body, why would the Aeon Fuli leave the body that would be March 7th in the eternal ice? Why? Well, there could be many reasons for this. One, where do you put all those memories when you're preserving them? If the whole point is to preserve memories in the face of the destruction of the universe, what do you do with these memories and how do you survive that destruction? That is one possibility, having somewhere to store these memories at the end of the day, when it's all said and done. Another could be a failsafe, because if you rose into Aeonhood once, and your ultimate goal is to preserve the universe through memories, then if something were to happen to the Aeon of Remembrance, perhaps the mortal body that was the Aeon of Remembrance could do it again. Or perhaps March 7th's destiny is to become a memo keeper herself, and an emanator of herself, her past self. Wouldn't that be crazy? And if you look at March 7th's Eidolons, it only makes even more sense. Memory of you, memory of it, memory of everything. Just like this always. Never forget again. Never forfeit again. Like forfeiting your mortal body. Again, I did touch on this briefly in a past video because I was doing a lore video on the Nameless, but there is no lore on March 7th, so I touched on this possibility, but I wanted to expand on it, especially since we got a little Easter egg with March 7th in her camera, and the fact that she made some condensed crystal that looks exactly like the Halls of Forgotten Memories event just made me laugh. March 7th is the mascot of this game. She is a significant character like all of the Nameless are, we just don't know exactly what she is. She doesn't even know what she is. And I think this is a great explanation as to why. She is the Aeon of Remembrance, but she isn't at the same time. Her past consciousness and self is, but her current consciousness is everything after hitting the factory data reset on her body that was preserved by the Aeon. Now that body has awoken and is living a second life, completely forgotten its past and what it used to be. But the constant connections and references to the remembrance and the natural ability to keep memories is still there. Maybe March's purpose is to preserve the memory of our experience in this game, our story as we play it, being a member of the Astral Express, watching our main MC fulfill their destiny in the long-term plan with the Stellaron Hunters. One last bit of information I thought was interesting when rewatching one of the earliest trailers of Honkai Star Rail, talking about each Aeon and their path, being narrated by the Garden of Recollection and Black Swan specifically. But then when they actually get to the Aeon of Remembrance in this trailer, it shows the Astral Express right then and there. I just think it's an interesting detail because at the time we wouldn't have thought anything of it. But now it really makes me wonder, considering how Hoyoverse likes to drop subtle hints and Easter eggs in their games. The Remembrance are sort of narrating and telling this story. They're keeping track of it. And now after Penacony, Black Swan's going to be accompanying us to a place that even the Aeon of Trailblaze hasn't been. So not only is the Remembrance getting pushed to the forefront of the story more, but for a long time now, the Remembrance is said to be the next playable path introduced. So it is a significant path in a lot of ways. Even a recent crossover with Honkai Impact 3rd saw Memo Keeper talking with Kiana Kazlana, and everything that we know and discussed in this video. I think, looking at March 7th now, her lack of backstory, being found preserved in ice, or crystal, joining the Astral Express, being the mascot of the game and one of the most important characters in the game. A character that's going to have probably many playable paths and maybe even a 5-star version at some point. Maybe her 5-star version will be the Remembrance, when that path could be playable. It all seems to fit together really well. And since we know they went out of their way to tell us that Memo Keepers abandon their mortal bodies, and all the followers of each Aeon take after the Aeon itself, it's crazy coincidental that her whole origin is being found in ice and being named March 7th. Regardless, it's going to be incredibly interesting to unravel her origin, her backstory, where she actually came from, what her real name is, what is her deal. She is by far the most mysterious character in the game, and all of the members of the Astral Express are very significant characters, so I look forward to finding out. But regardless, I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about March 7th? Her very non-existent and mysterious backstory, being found in some ice. I for one would just like to know her real name. But thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.